All right, good morning, good afternoon, whichever. A bunch of these here lately, so figured we'd go ahead and do a video on this. More as information than anything else. So, all right. So over here in the corner, you can see parts left over from the other night when we were working on. We're going to go ahead and clear these off and get these out of the way. Let's junk off of here. Howdy doody, buddy. What's going on? Yeah, yesterday sucked. The big one with the internet. I've got a new cable ordered. I was actually hoping that was going to be in today because I was going to try it, even if it just laid out in the open. But you get this AC shut down for a little bit. I'm actually getting kind of cold here in the shop. But anyways, had a few extra orders that came in at the last second that I had to get shipped out this morning. So we got that taken care of. So we're running a little bit behind on starting our projects for today. So all right, so yesterday, and I just got aggravated and just said, to heck with it. I finished up and got to a good stopping point yesterday, so over the internet. But, anyways, back to the installation of the Echo board. Well, Charles, I figured you'd be in bed snoozing, buddy. Here on the side for where we're going to mount the Echo board so that it's not flopping around loose in there. Actually going to start with the simplicity, since this board actually allows me to disconnect the main power. We're actually going to hook up this first, that way we can get it laid there out of the way and then go to the next application. So one of the things that I prefer to do as far as for the grounding on these, so I'm just going to twist this a little bit. That'll help hold these wires kind of where I want them for the time being. But anyways, usually what I try to do is up towards the front on these radios, there's usually a place where you can go directly into the main board and to a main ground. And that's actually what I'm going to do today, is I'm actually going to use a primary board ground for the Echo board. So we're going to solder that in place. I've already checked the mail today, Charles. You know, my ladies at the post office are nice and safe. But since YouTube's a little more forgiving, we figured we'd go ahead and try YouTube out a little bit here, see whether or not it's hopefully not going to be as stingy on directly to the main board ground. Now the particular Echo board, and that's the other thing too, guys, hopefully you get instructions with yours, but right here at the bottom it states 8 volt, DC input, 8 volts. So it's important to look at the type of Echo board you've got. Some of them will run at 14 volts. Some do not like 14 volts, even though you can put 14 volts into them. This one, however, we can get that camera to focus a little bit better. Well, hello, Mr. Rolling Stone. That does help. But anyways, everybody's got different methods. This is just another method as far as on installation. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to pick up our voltage here off of this one. There again, I've done a couple of these. So we're going to get just a small little drip of solder down there on JP13, which that actually comes off of the 8-volt regulator that's inside the radio. So it's going to give us, I think it actually is typically like 8.2 or 8.3, but it's close enough for the purpose intended. So once you clean your tip and you go back to solder that, most of that excess solder is going to be picked up and gotten off of there. Boards are actually fairly easy to install. Back in the old days, I've seen where these things can really cause you some headache and aggravation. So, all right. One of the other things too that I wanted to denote that I did on this, per the instructions, which it doesn't say to do this, but you're going to notice, one's got paint on it, the other one doesn't. Usually I'll either mark either one or the other, and the reason why is because of the fact that since the cables are both the same color, it's hard to tell which one's the input and which one's the output. So I like to actually mark one or the other whenever I go to do the installation. Now the shielding that they use on there is very heavy, and it's actually very hard to get multiple wires on pin 1, which is where your ground actually is. So for your shielding. So typically what I'll do is I'll take like a small piece of bell wire or other small wire, about the same approximate size, something around a 22 gauge works perfect. But I'll go ahead and I'll make 1 or 2 wraps with the bell wire around the shielding itself. What that does is that'll hold those two together. I can solder it, and then it'll actually give me a small little lead to go ahead and solder directly to the pin. And theoretically, it'll be one less connection that I've got to try to work around. So I've only got 2 wires to actually go to 1 pin instead of trying to stick 3. It gets frustrating whenever they decide to pop off. And this is just an easy way to hold everything together while you actually do the installation. So I've had a few people ask me more and more on not just doing the builds, but a few trade secrets. So hopefully this helps at least somebody out. Of course, there's always somebody negative out there too that's gonna watch this video and give it a big thumbs down. But hey, we're out here doing our thing, just showing you another method. So now on this one, it's going to be pin 2. Again, these are pretty common. Everything's now went to a common setup as far as on pin outs. So we're actually going to be hooking up to pin 2 on this, which in the case of doing your cobras, that's actually going to be the yellow wire that's going to go to the mic jack. Now there's technically another place in which you can install this into, and that's all up into the individual itself, as to which way you choose to do so. But on this particular one, like I said, it's yellow. You can hook it up to the Dynamic, I really don't recommend it, mainly because of the fact that it seems like it loses something. Is probably the best way to explain it. I think you lose a little bit of linearity with the audio when you do that. So we're not going to be using the mic jet or the dynamic. We're actually going to go directly to the input of the mic itself. Is how we're going to do this. Now, because I don't know whether or not he's going to be running any kind of amplifier or anything behind this, I'm actually going to go ahead and install a ferrite bead on this. So let me grab a ferrite bead here out of the stock. This is where we've got plenty of excess wire. Try to put that down a little deeper into the radio. Now, after we get this echo board here installed, I'm actually going to be coming back here in just a little bit with another live feed that might be interesting for some of you. Rolling Stone. It will be a video that you will find educational. Why? Because you are in the same line of work I am, and it's something that you haven't touched base. We haven't touched base with yet. So, yes, that is correct. It is to help with the squealing. If for some reason you have an amplifier that likes to squeal, so it just helps reduce. I'm not going to say it's going to eliminate it, but it will greatly reduce the potential for such a thing. So, we'll get that out of the way. All right, so we're going to take care of the troublesome one, which is going to be our input first. Why? Because it's at the bottom. So we're going to heat up our pin. Okay. So first is installed. Now, like I said, since we added a little piece of wire, it'll make our lives a lot easier to get in there to the top pin, which is going to be a white wire. That's actually going to be your negative or ground wire. So we'll go ahead and install that. There again, it's actually super easy, especially with these particular echo boards, because you don't have relays and everything that you're trying to wire around to make all your connections. So we'll put our heat shrink down there on that side. Now sometimes you get just enough extra lead where you can take a pair of hemos and give it about a half a twist on your wire. But you can actually clamp that between your tip and pre-tin it just a little bit. Why? Because that'll actually help suck it on there a little faster as far as you actually solder those two connections together. Okay. Now I will shrink that down, but I want to make sure that everything tests good. On rare occasions, you will actually get everything just 100% perfect, and you'll still have a bad board. So I already pre-drilled one of the holes in the radio that we're going to be using here for the installation of this. Like I said, this actually would be a fairly quick video, but now we are going to also do talkback in this radio as well. And I am going to show you a neat little trick that I have showed one of my students when doing talkback. Okay. And what I did was I actually twist that back and forth, and I wanted to make sure that because there's actually a small locking pin on these potentiometers, so that's what we did was we went ahead and wanted to make sure that that was seated. So we're going to hold pressure against the back of it until we can get our nut on the front of it tightened up and get this baby locked in place. Now what I really wished is that they had a locking ring on the back side of this that was adjustable, or we could actually set the knobs to where they actually lined up with specific radios. It's probably the only thing that I really dislike about the Echo boards is not every radio that you put these in are those knobs going to line up just like the factory. Because the way it locks in place actually looks like it's wide open. Anyways, yeah, it looks like it's wide open even though it's in the off position. So, like I said, bear that in mind as well. Now all we have to do is plug our power in for the Echo board. In theory, and I say in theory, technically we're done with this. But we still have one more adjustment that'll have to be made on this particular Echo board again. This is the Ranger EB 2015 board that we're using. So there's one onboard adjustment that'll need to be made based on some of the other settings of the radio. That's the reason why we're going to be doing the talkback as well. And we're going to set the talkback to where it's, and the audio to where it's just low enough that we don't have to worry about squealing. Okay. Now we're going to be using the channel 9 normal and channel 9 switch on this one. And the reason why is because that's what the customer requested. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually disconnect the wiring on this. And since this is a slide switch, it makes life actually kind of easy because you can kind of tell what wires need to be soldered together, what wires don't. So we're going to start with our yellow wire, which is going to go over to our channel selector. That one actually can get just removed and pulled completely out of the circuit because it's not going to be a necessary connection. Okay, next, since we're looking at the back of the switch, we've got a black and a pale orange on this model. We're going to start on one side of the switch and then we'll go to the other side. So we're going to unsolder just those two wires for now. And we're going to follow them down. And it is okay, it's just not aesthetically pleasing. It is okay to just solder those two together and put a piece of heat shrink on them. Myself, I like to move them completely out of the way. So in this particular instance, since we've got the one side completely loose, we've got them brought up. All right, the black goes directly to ground. Now this one we can actually leave. And the reason why is because we're going to pick up and we're going to reutilize the grounding system in the radio for part of the talkback. So this one we're actually going to leave. This one, what we're actually going to do is we're going to trim it down and solder it directly to ground. Okay. Now we're going to go to the next side, which is going to be this brown wire that's also going over here towards the front by the PLL. We're going to unsolder that off of our channel 9 switch. Pull it up, get it out of our way. The next one is this white wire. We're going to find out where it goes to the main board. And there again, nobody says you have to do it this way. Just makes for a nice clean look. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm rerouting this white wire. We're going to tuck it up underneath all these other wires. Right here we're disconnecting the brown wire off of the circuit board. We're going to go back and hook up white wire, which we'll go ahead and finish out and complete the other section. That way we stay in the normal normal 14, or excuse me, the normal 40 um, regular. Like I said, now we don't have any nasty looking wires hanging all over, no excess heat shrink, things like that. So it's just a nice clean install. Now that black wire, what we're actually going to do is move it around. We're going to utilize center pin of our switch. That way, in the normal position, it's going to be off, which is typically down. Now we're going to go back and utilize our top pin. But what we're going to do is we're going to come off of our top pin with something highly unusual. It's not an unusual part, but it's unusual for most people to see this used. I'm actually using a polarized electrolytic. Anthony, are you still in there, buddy, or what? All right, so what I did was I went ahead and clipped part of the leg off on the positive. And we are going to look at the main board here and determine how much wire we need. Now, since we pulled out our delta tune, we just completely removed it out of the circuit. Yeah, we're going to reclaim some of the wire. Watt. Anyways, pay attention, because this is how I do my nice sounding echo, or excuse me, not echo, but talkback. All right. Now, one of the other things that can be done on this, guys, if you prefer to, once you actually put a electrolytic in place, you can actually take a small VR adjustment, something like a 500 ohm trim pot, and you can also put that in line with the capacitor itself. See if we can get that in there a little bit more for you. Anyways, the other thing too is you can go, and if you need to adjust it, you can also just take and put a resistor on the end of this lead, and that'll help reduce the amount of talkback that you actually get as well. So every radio there again is a little different that you're going to run into. Okay, well, we've got that installed. That should be pretty close to what we want. There again, you can also play with the capacitance as well. Now, there's two different ways to actually do this. Actually, there's more than two, but there's two nominal ways of doing this. And for this video, we're actually going to make life a little easier. And we're actually going to install this wire on the bottom side of the board. Okay, so all right, and let me get the camera down here a little bit where you guys can see a little closer detail. All right, most all your 29s are set up very commonly this way, and you're going to see multiple different pads. For example, this is your ground. This is actually where your white wire is going to be located, which is typically your ground that's going to go to your mic jack. Typically, the next one is your audio input, and then I always get these two mixed up. One is for transmit and one is for receive. So where we're actually going to be going at today is right here in the front. Like I said, you're going to see typically you're going to see 3 or 4 essential lines. And some of the newer radios, there's actually going to be 2 boxes right in here where the audio wire is, and that has to do with the fact that some of them have factory talkback in it, and that's what they utilize those for. So since this is a little bit older radio, traces are a little different, but essentially it's all the same. So like I said, that's what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be installing this wire right here, and that'll give us our talkback through the switch. Yes, Anthony, after I get through with this video here, we're actually going to move on to the next one. I'll actually shut down and pause for just a moment until I get everything set back up. It's going to be on power supplies and some basic modifications of said power supplies. So this is going to be something you're going to be interested in, and that you'll need to know a bit more about as well. All right, so now we're ready to go back and do our testing. I'll get my note here out of the way. Now, I was hoping that my customer would have contacted me by now, but he hasn't. So we're just going to take an educated guess, because I'm not sure what kind of microphone he's using. So in this case, as with most all of them, that's where we utilize our stock microphone. Alright, so flip over there, turn off the bench radio, turn power on to the one we're working on. Alright, we're going to start by turning our talkback on. Hello, audio check. Alright, now we've got our dynamic wide open. Obviously you hear the squeal coming back through. We're going to try to find the right adjustment tool here. I think that's the one I want, but we're going to go to the next one and see. I've got to redo one of my tools to fit these SMDs again. There we go. All right, now we're going to key it up, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to adjust the adjustment on the echo board, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be in the on position as far as the echo board to do this. With our mic gain all the way up and our talkback on, hello audio. All right, so hello audio check, 1 2 1 2 audio. So what I did was I cut the actual gain down off of the input on the echo board, and I brought it down into the point where it didn't squeal using a stock hand mic. So that's what we actually were concerned with. Now if he puts a stock or a noise canceling microphone on there, the talkback will cut down a little bit more, and if need be he can turn the dynamic back as well in relationship to what he's doing. So all right, let's turn the echo board on and start testing there. Hello, check, 1 2 check, 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 1 2 audio check, audio test, audio check. Hello, audio check, check, audio check, audio. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. Audio check, check, audio test, 1 2 1 2 check. All right, so we know the board works good. We got all kinds of weird noises that we can create with it. So now that part's taken care of, now the only thing left to this, which I'll do that a little bit later on today, is go through the receive alignment, put it together, put the seals on it, and this thing will be ready for the customer. All right, guys, like I said, we're going to go ahead and take just a short recess, maybe 5 minutes. I'll set up for the next thing, which is going to be on power supplies. You know, like I said, for those of you that want a little more info on power supplies, I think it'll be interesting. Like I said, I'm just going to show you one method, which is, you know, one of two that I prefer to do. So, like I said, it'll be interesting, and that way we can take care of another customer while we wait. All right, folks, catch you in just a short. Alright, folks, well, for whatever reason, it's not letting me end the video. Not sure what we're doing wrong here, but we'll figure that out here in a second. Yes.